you touched earlier on. You were saying when you were living in the closet, basically living out of the closet, you got out by work. So I've always believed that you gotta work harder and outwork the next guy. So during these years, I mean, I always joke that it took me 3 pairs of leather shoes to make any money, and I stand by that.
Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. Guys, we got a guy here. We don't know if he was selling out his friends at 12 years old. He had a little landscaping business, crushing it. But I'm very excited for you to meet my buddy Andrew. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing all right today. Thank you for having me on. How are you doing?
It's good, man. You know, I'm from Texas, okay? But I really feel like I missed my calling being born into a New Jersey Italian family. I really feel like I would have been a good mayor, but like not really the mayor behind the mayor, you know? Like that really, I missed my calling.
I love it. That would have been you. That would have been you.
Dude, I tell everybody the same story. When we had hurricanes in Texas, we lived in a small town. My grandfather's brother, he was kind of like the mayor, right, of the small town. And he used to have a red, green, and yellow stoplight outside of his barn. And if it was red, nobody could come in. If it was yellow, you could come in for one beer. And if it was green, they were going all night. And that's how everybody knew, because it was at the four-way stop. But so what was I talking about? 12 years old, landscaping, IT company. Yeah. Tell us about your story.
Yeah, thank you. So I mean, like right now, currently, I'm second generation at a company called BCI Computers, full service IT support firm based out of Rhode Island. Feet on the ground, 18 states, clients in over 30, 24/7 help desk operations. You know, but previous to that, you know, also previous Guinness World Record holder in a earlier time in my life. But I early on, 12 years old, I had a deal with my father, and 12 years old going into that summer, so during the school year, I had to get on honor roll, stay on it, and I could either A, start a business, or I could go, I thought, let me go work at the local country club and learn, kind of do a little networking and figure out how to become successful. But I ended up choosing the landscape company, getting my grandfather at the time, he had a pretty good sized property, had some old farm equipment that wasn't working, and him and I got it running. The first summer sold my brother to come work for me and a couple of the neighborhood kids, and we did just over $5,000 that first summer. Had an absolute blast.
Guys, let me take a minute to tell you about my buddies over at Lead Hub, Ben and Aaron, the best humans I know. Not only are they amazing at marketing for trade companies, but Ben started his HVAC company in his garage, sold it for multi-million-dollars. So when this guy talks, I listen. When we took over Dietz Mechanical, we had 22 reviews in 22 years. In 7 short months, we went from 22 reviews to 107. We went from a 4.2 to a 4.7. We tripled our Facebook presence and we tripled our calls. If you're an HVAC, plumbing, electric, landscaping company, and you're looking for a no BS approach to marketing, you're looking for people who have done it before, you got to go to leadhub.net. I love it. It's, my dad was a doctor, so I didn't really want to be a doctor. So it's like for me, I was like really searching, but like there is something to be said to, getting out there and making moves, right? The joke out there right now is like, what's more valuable? Like be a caddy at a country club or go to college, and everybody gets their arms up. But like I waited tables at really fancy restaurants and I met a lot of people that own businesses. And I'm like, well, you're here at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday. What are you doing? And then I would ask them, and they would tell me, and I'm like, I want to own a business, right? And so, like, I would imagine you had the same thing. You're going to these conferences, you're running landscaping businesses so young. I love that.
I was luckily very fortunate, like, to be exposed to a lot. And like you said, like, when you and I talked previously, I mean, at 12, 13, at the same age, my dad was taking me to industry conferences, flying me out to California, flying me here and there. We were going to industry conferences. So that winter, I was, I got my little $5,500 a year landscape company. How do I scale it? At that age, I'm like, how do I make it big, right? How do I make it big? And I said, well, I can only work so many hours, so I'm tapped off there. So I said, and I figured that, ultimately, we both know this. I mean, business is in the people. It's in the relationships with the customers and being able to identify a problem and then figuring out how to solve it. And then it's with the relationships and finding and nurturing the right people to be able to solve that problem internally at your organization. So that winter at 12 years old, I went and put an ad up on Craigslist, rode my bike down a local coffee shop, and I hired some subcontractors to come work for me. And the next summer I did multiple times that, eventually getting into concrete, asphalt, seal coating, you name it.
This guy's running subcontractors out of his room, on his freaking race car street sheets. I love it. Like, like printing money. So you run the business, you learn the business, you're going to conference businesses. You went to college, right? You went to college. Did you graduate, or did something change?
I went for a little bit. I got what I needed out of it. I think I went for I did 2 years. And what I ended up deciding was just, I tried reorganizing schedules and taking night classes. And just at one point, I'm running out of class taking conference calls at 6, 7 o'clock at night, chatting with customers in California. And at one night, I just walked out and never looked back. I said, you got to commit to one thing, and you just gotta go for it.
And so when you decided to do that and you stepped in your dad's business, he just gave you the keys and you didn't have to work for it at all, right?
No. That sounds like a failed preparation. We've seen those. Those are the businesses that you and I try and buy, is the second generation businesses that aren't doing so hot. But no, when I was about 17, I came to my father end of high school, and so I started a landscape company. So I ended up selling that, not to a private equity company, but to another local landscaper. And I ended up my father made me an email, got an email address with the company. I got a key to the office, and I got the security code, and I got an access to some internal training documents and such. Mm-hmm. And that was it. No contacts, no clients. Couldn't call a client and say, hey, do you want to buy a computer? I got nothing.
Well, as you look back on that now, right? And I think somebody asked me one time when I got kicked out of my parents' house and I was living in a closet and they cut me off. They said, how'd you get out of that closet? And I said, because no matter what was going on in my life, my parents taught me one default mechanism, and that was to work. Like, it was work. Like, everything tastes better, feels better after a good day's work. That's just what my parents raised me on. And I would imagine he hands you an email and says, figure it out. Your default was, all right, let's go to work.
That was it. Everyone, a lot of people thought I was a little crazy. I just went after it. I was smiling and dialing 100 dials a day for a very long time. I was sneaking into networking events because I wasn't 21. I was trying to go out, meet people. I was 17 I started, so I was going to networking events, trying to get in. I actually put on a little bit of weight to make me look older. Because I wasn't taking.
Come on.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, I put on a little bit. Yeah, seriously. I'm purposely. who's gonna go spend any type of money? Who's gonna outsource their IT or let some guy take over cybersecurity that's 17 years old?
Dude, I love it. So, like, that's what I'm so curious about is how you're selling, to be honest with you, a sophisticated, service at that time, right? People are more
Yeah.
inclined now. How did you get over that, like selling guys probably like 4 times your age?
So you had touched earlier on, you were saying when you were living in the closet, basically living out of the closet, you got out by work. So I've always believed that you gotta work harder and outwork the next guy. So during these years, I mean, I always joke that it took me 3 pairs of leather shoes to make any money, and I stand by that. I didn't take, anytime when I was making those phone calls, I make the phone calls all day long, all night long. I was designing marketing material, working on a marketing program to reach out to them. I was also trying to better my craft, both my sales techniques, my marketing techniques, also just learning more about the industry. And little by little, I slowly grew. And whenever I made any money, I put it back into the company. My first couple of hires were 2 guys I went to high school with, actually. So instead of giving myself a paycheck, I went and hired 2 of my buddies to come work with me to help me grow. But really my big break was 2013-14. And what I did was we invested a whole lot of money and time and energy into building out programs around HIPAA compliance. So in that time period, they were updating the High Tech Act, which was bringing not only hospitals but local dentist office, your local primary care physician office. They had to comply by these technical safeguards. So we basically designed a program all around this, wrote a book, designed training materials, you name it. But that was my marketing piece, right? That allowed me to get in the door. So now I could say, hey, if you want to be HIPAA compliant, you got to update your computers. We have to put these new policies in. We have to, really just all of the things I was trying that were always really best practices for IT. I was now able to sell you through compliance. That scaled me over a couple of years to start serving customers in over 30 states, which was huge. That was my real big break.
When you're building something like that and you're just figuring it out, like what is your advice to like anybody that's either building a company or looking to buy a company from your years of kind of starting with nothing, just an email, and building up into 30 states? What is your advice to them?
Yeah. No, I think that I've always said that you have to outwork the next guy. You just have to work harder. And then during this period, you're going to have times where you're going to doubt yourself, really the battle within. And that's the real, you and I have talked about that. I mean, that's the fight here. It's the battle within yourself and against yourself. You just got to keep pushing along. And that never to, Ed Milet says it. You don't sell there's always a number, but don't sell it on your dream. Don't cash out on it. And I remember there was 2 times in my career. One early on that I was about a year and a half within the first 2 years, I was offered a job to sell life insurance. They saw me. I was scouted at a networking event, offered me $100,000, and I said no. And soon after that, I got a little bit of a break. And then later on in my career, come 2015, 2016, I got an offer from a direct competitor of ours to come over and take over as CEO. Okay. And I just offered me a whole lot of money, and I just couldn't do it. Couldn't sell my dream. So those are my biggest pieces of advice. Outwork the next guy. Learn to battle and learn to master yourself. The battle within is huge, and don't sell it on your dream for a 9-to-5.
So I'd be curious, did you tell your dad about that offer from the to take the CEO?
So you were gonna laugh on that one. So I came home to my dad. I was in California, and I was away on business at a conference. I ended up meeting this guy. We went out for cocktails. We had dinner. I got to meet each other. Told him what I was doing with HIPAA, and he thought it was just, he couldn't believe it. He offered me, again, I'm in my early 20s. Again, I'm not making any money at all at this point. I'm hiring, every time I make a little bit of money, I hire more employees, put into marketing. He offers me $550,000 plus a car. As you know, a big car enthusiast. I had a budget for a car. And I came to my dad, and he's like, I was like, Dad, I was like, what do I was like, there's no way I can't give up on this. I was like, I've been at this so long. I've already come all this way. He told me to take the job. I think he was testing me. He told me to quit and leave. And, which made me angry. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I was like, I don't need anything. So I ended up cashing out even more and buying into the company at that point, even more.
He knew exactly what he was doing. What he was doing. I love your dad already. This is my type of guy. But I mean, think about that though. Like, that takes a special time. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Like, you know, and I think one of the conversations that's not happening enough is, like, as the owner, whether you're the CEO or just the direct owner, like, you're the last one to get paid. Simple as that. Like, I remember the story about Andy Frisella. He's like, you think I'm all successful? He's like 10 years we didn't do over 60,000 in sales. I was sleeping in the store. He goes, yeah, we're doing 800 million now, but that's in year 16, 17. You know, it's the truth. Like, you talk to guys and they're like, oh, we haven't been profitable in 3 years, you know. But it's like, then you hit that thing and it's like, you know, and so, you know, to be that young, to know how much I know you love cars, you know, but if your dad would have said, don't take it, there's a slight chance you would have been spiteful and took it. So I kind of like what he said.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people told me I was crazy. You know, here I wasn't taking it. I knew that, again, to what we said earlier, I was very lucky to, growing up, I spent a lot of time with a lot of people that were older than I, that were successful. I always wanted to learn. And I also read a lot. You know, I read a lot of self-help books. I read a lot of, you know, one of my favorite books is Think and Grow Rich. And I said, I was like, you know, you look at these, you look at these small businesses and they have the Mercedes or they have the Porsche out front, but they're not profitable. They're not paying their employees well. They're not growing. Where if they put that $100,000, $200,000 car into the business, you can hire more staff. You can grow more rapidly. You can build out better efficiencies. So ultimately, it's all a long-term play, right? It's all a long-term play. That's all it is. You know, delayed gratification.
What parts of your story do you want people to understand or you'd like to share so people could learn from?
Yeah. No, I think I'm trying to, you know, there's quite a few, but I think that, you know, perfect is like right after I declined that offer to take over as CEO. There was a short little while after that business wasn't going so well, and which is fine. But I stuck with it. I had very close family members tell me, leave the business, give up. It's time to roll up your sleeves and just call it quits. I ended up soon after that, I took on my biggest account to date at that point. We took over IT for an entire city. And we got called in during a ransomware attack for incident response, and we got them back up and running. And so the lesson there is that, you know, really that battle within, again, I mean, I struggled significantly. That was my biggest challenge along the entire progression here was I doing the right thing? Am I not? At one point I had ex-girlfriends say, you got to give up. You got to go. You should take the job. You should take a job. You should go do this. You should do that. Sell your portion of the business. You've built up this thing, cash out. You're in your 20s. Go do nothing. And I had all of this really just negative pressure to stop or slow me down. And every time that I said no, sure, maybe it got harder for a little bit, but it always gets better, right? As long as you keep working hard and you head in that direction, it's going to get better.
I love that. And what would you say is your number one lesson for yourself? Because that is a lot of pressure coming from, people against you. But what I appreciate about people like you is that you have a singular focus on the outcome. And for me, and maybe I'm just an outsider, it doesn't feel like it's monetary based with you.
No, I like helping people. At the end of the day, I say that we have two customers, and we have the small business that really, it doesn't make sense for them to bring in internal IT. They can't spend $60,000, $70,000 a year. So they come to us for a fraction of the cost. We guarantee someone on the phone less than a minute. First call resolution is 2 minutes. And then you have the flip side of the coin where there's certainly, it's great, but you have large companies that have built out help desk and such, and they either offshore a portion of their day-to-day operations to us, or maybe a certain compliance will handle, like HIPAA or something of that nature. But my passion is working with their everyday small business. And the reason is that, your local dentist, he occurs a cyber attack and he loses everyone's social security number, and he goes to church on Sunday, and you got 6 people in there that, they have bank accounts frozen or they can't make a payment because of it. They're not going to be happy with him. Forget the money. It's, you see these big cyber attacks like Target, and sure. They're still standing. My wife still goes shopping there, but Dr. Smith, that's it. He's all done. So my passion is really with the small businesses, and it's not monetary driven. At the end of the day, I'm just a guy from Rhode Island that's got really bad ADHD, a little chip on his shoulder, and really likes to problem solve. I love going into business.
That sounds like a Springsteen song. We're gonna write it one day.
Well, we just need the genes.
Yeah, we just need the genes, dude. That's why I'm so excited about this new season of the podcast, this new year, bringing on business owners, hearing their stories from start to finish. If people want to reach out to you, they want to find out more about the company, how would they do that?
Yeah, so you can go to BCIComputers.com, and if you want to reach me directly, you can reach me at Andrew Calore at BCIComputers.com.
Guys, I love it. Send it to a friend, rate us and review us, share it with somebody that'll get some value from it, and we'll see you next time.